Alright, welcome back. Thank you for joining us for another week of passing that good old peace pipe. As always, Shaman Packers right here, packing it up as usual.
And you got Chief Blitzfreak. Wow, 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 wow. What you doing?
And this week we're looking at government lies and Epstein ties, and how the government might be tied to the Epstein. But this is old, you say? This is old shit. This was last year. What the fuck?
Yeah, why are we talking about Epstein?
Well, that's the thing, though, is not Epstein, but Ghislaine Maxwell, his missus back in the day, has been arrested, and now she's basically getting held in the same prison that Epstein was held in, and the basically bets are on if she makes it to court or not.
I mean, what can they even charge her with? Do you know what she's being charged with currently?
Oh,
Because I thought she got immunity.
trafficking minors with intent of like illegal action.
Yeah, but in the case I don't know whether it was overturned, but so I think it was like 2006 or 2008. Not Harvey Weinstein, who's also friends with Epstein.
Sure.
Epstein he was charged and given 18 months in prison, which he served like 13 months of. But he was granted immunity for all of his co-conspirators, and whether named or unnamed. And she was named as one of them. And it was really weird because I've watched the Netflix documentary like a lot of people and stuff. And it's strange because a lot of the victims are saying that's totally unfair. How could a law ever got passed? Obviously, there's collusion with the government. But what they're not saying is, because a lot of people are just ignorant of the laws, they're saying he's going to do life, spend the rest of his life, like 15 more years or whatever. He's going to go to prison. But all these young women, they're going to go to jail for the rest of their lives for the crimes they committed. If he didn't get them all immunity, majority of his victims, it sound like, then went to their schools or just out and about, and they actually either made friends or had friends, and they then brought, we're going to say underage females, but it seems like most seem to be like 17, 16. Like, if he'd have been in a different state or a different country, a lot of this would have been legal. But the women were 100% admitting on camera to bringing other girls from their schools along and their friends along, taking them into rooms where they're massaging them, and then they leave their friends.
So will they be charged as well? Because that's trafficking.
Well, they should be. And in one of the interviews, the police officer had to stop them because they 100% should be. I mean, there is no way if these were men, like if this was if this was all just related to men because Epstein liked boys or whatever, I guarantee you all the men would have been charged, like 100%. Now, I don't think that the police chose not to charge these women. I think that the deal that Epstein did, which got all his co-conspirators off, is what did it. Majority of his victims are also his co-conspirators. They literally said, look at how bad, look at what he did to us. And then immediately they went out and got their younger sisters and other friends, and they lied to them the same and brought them along. And I mean, it just all seemed crazy because you're now implying like that 17-year-olds are idiots and stuff, and you can tell that a lot of the stories they're saying they're true, but they're leaving stuff out. Like, if I'd have said to you when we were 17 or 16 or goddamn even, it wouldn't have mattered what age, we just would have known, even 14 or now, if you said, we're going to a man's house and we're going to give him a massage for $500, don't worry about it, and we might be able to get more money, I would have questions. And if I didn't have questions, I would either have to, based off knowing you, I would think, well, we're probably not going to be performing sexual favors. I would assume we're giving him some sort of massage and we're going to rob this guy, or we're going to do something to him. We're running a scam on him. And I think most of the people who went to his house were hustlers. Like, just because you're young doesn't mean you're not dodgy. And I think they all thought they were going to hustle someone, and it turned out they were about to meet someone who is absolutely brilliant at dominating people. Like, I mean, this guy was good at it. But when I look at the crimes he committed, I go, all he really did was sit at home, and women came along. Now, I understand. Look, I can justify the 17-year-olds and stuff. What people would argue with me over is when they go, what about the 12-year-olds and the 14s? Going, look, there just didn't seem to be any evidence. Like, once evidence came forward, like, fine, then that's a different thing. But it seems like most of them were 17, 18. Some of the victims were in their 20s. And they're literally being represented as victims because they showed up and they took money from him and then had consensual sex. And I do understand the argument of they didn't actually say the word yes, but then I look back in my life and I go, oh, that never used to happen. Like, no one actually says, can I have sex with you now? The first time a girl said that to me was, I think well, this would actually make sense. It would have been 2007, the end of 2007. I thought it was the cutest and funniest thing ever because she was actually asking as a legitimate question. Is it all right if I do this now? Going, what do you mean? I'm not fighting you off. Yeah. I'm smiling. This seems to be a good occasion. And now I understand that we live in a world, well, not even a world, just in places where people say you must get the person to say the words. Like, the whole story is very, very, very dodgy. But that's why I'm asking. I would have thought that Ghislaine, I would have thought that she could... Ghislaine? That she couldn't be charged except for anything other than maybe perjury if she's lied.
I think that, basically when Epstein got arrested the second time, he renegotiated that immunity deal with his lawyers and whatnot. That, it's like he couldn't get immunity for himself, but if he points out who they're, then they can get immunity and they tell, the case more stuff and implicate more people. But I think that was only if he served life in prison after that. And that was like the best he was going to get. But because of the alleged suicide, that deal probably got called off. And like all of these people are just scattered to the wind. And just like all legged it. And apparently they can't find them because they never had like email addresses, and like a lot of them just like dumped their phones, and so none of them had phone numbers anymore and shit. And so it was just like, fuck. But then they've recently just found Ghislaine. Someone like rang in and like reported that they thought they saw her, and she was just chilling in her loft in New Hampshire this entire time. It's just like, what the fuck? Like, wouldn't they like check there? It's like a property she actually owns.
So just no one was actually looking.
Apparently, it seems like it, but she did get called out in the end, so someone did eventually find her.
I hear people are saying Epstein may not have killed himself, that people think it could have been murder, and that she won't make it as well. But honestly, looking at them and looking at photos of them and hearing the things they've done, I don't know Epstein personally or her, but they don't look like people who would ever snitch. Because snitching, unless you get a full immunity, is usually it just hurts you more because it proves you're a part of a conspiracy to commit crimes. I couldn't imagine them turning on people, and quite honestly, they look like... Every time you see photos of them with people, either the famous people, I don't think they know them, because people just get photos taken with other people all the time. So they don't know them really well.
Running up and photobombing people.
Well, yeah, or the people they do know, I reckon, are probably scared of them. Like you wouldn't. All these powerful people they hang around with are probably more worried about them than, like, people would say, well, look, they hang out with the president, and Clinton would be more powerful. Clinton was probably more worried, because you have to remember Epstein, like, he made all that money, they were saying, running the Ponzi scheme. So he's a super piece of shit. I mean, these are the people who actually set out there and go, we're going to fuck over as many people for all of their money. We're going to tell them every lie we can. We're going to show them fake financial statements. We're just going to fuck everyone over. And he was brilliant at it. So my guess is anyone who ever met him, he probably did try to get his hooks into him real quick. He was probably a really intimidating person. Like, you've got to know when to try to get away from people. I mean, even when you look at the documentaries and when they talk about him, here's a guy who, in his life, to me, it looks like he doesn't have a single male friend. Like, I don't think he had a male friend. Just talking business with people and associating with people is not the same as having an actual friend. I think his friend is, I know I'm going to say it wrong again, Ghislaine?
Ghislaine?
Ghislaine, okay. So I think Ghislaine is probably his only real friend, and his entire life he's just surrounded by women and money, and these women are the ones that are allowing his life to happen. And they're saying, look at all these men at the airports and all these people who worked as gardeners. These are poor people. And all the victims are saying, oh, well, we only did what we did because we didn't have enough money. Yeah, well, you're now doing less and you're getting more than the people who are doing the gardens or moving the bags at the airport. So don't act like they're meant to step in. Because the reality is, when people see this going on, even if you're seeing it and it's like 17-year-olds, all any other woman thinks who's watching it is, look at these bitches, they're not going to work, they don't have to do anything, they're getting to fly to islands, and they're fucking these people. Like, that doesn't sound like trafficking to me. It's like if I was dating, or I thought I was dating Kesha, or I'm just at her house and I give her massages and Kesha fucks me, and then we fly around and she passes me off to like Britney Spears and or Selena Gomez, and then afterwards I'm like, I didn't realise that I was being fucking trafficked and I was getting paid the whole time. Like, honestly, who's gonna feel fucking bad for me? Like, no one's actually gonna feel bad. Like, and people go, well, you don't know what it's like. Imagine if that's what happened when you were 15. The younger you make me in the scenario, the harder any man is going to laugh and go, wait, what? He's 15 and he gets to fuck Kesha? And now he's fucking Britney? Who is this guy? What does he do? Well, nothing. I'm a victim. That's what I do. That's my story. That's how I live. So I don't know what they're gonna... I really don't know who they think they're gonna charge. I mean, he's dead. All they can do is get her to say what happened, and if people don't have immunity, all they're going to have to do is charge all the women who were involved. And I should have probably started with this, but not all the victims like were dodgy. Like, I totally get what it's like what they went through is like when they go, what's it like? You show up to a house, you're told to do something, but they weren't even really threatened. And then you do it because you're scared something bad's going to happen. Well, that's pretty much what it's like for anyone who's ever gone and bought drugs anywhere or done anything anywhere. You feel like, well, should I comply? Or will it make it awkward? Well, yeah, it will make it awkward. And you have to work out where your limit is on where you comply. And I just find it's a weird case because the only man involved really is dead, and now it's just women, and they've gone, well, what about oh god, I was going to name the wrong prince for a second. There was the prince. Oh,
Prince Andrew.
Prince Andrew. I was like, don't name the wrong prince. That'd probably.
Well, that's it though.
Trouble.
They're gonna go after the customers of the island, the pedophiles.
Yeah.
Obviously.
But when they talk, okay, so when they talk to people who work on the island,
they're trying to like bust the largest pedophile ring out.
No, well, I think even with what the police say and the FBI is saying, I don't think this was the case. I don't think that they're even accusing people of this. Not really. Like, they've sort of implied it. But even the women who are talking, the victims are saying, like, oh, well, Bill Clinton wasn't involved. He was there. And they're saying these people aren't involved. They've only named a couple of other men. And they were like Harvey Weinstein. And one of the attorneys, but the
People we
attorney
already know about.
is, yeah, super against it.
That's a bit sus, though, you
This
know.
guy wasn't, it didn't sound like he was sharing women around. Like, this just didn't seem what it's like. Honestly, this guy seemed like the person you went to when you needed, like, to borrow $500 million, or you needed money donated to your new project. And this is what everyone's saying. And I don't know why they're just, like, it would be awkward for them as well. You know you're dealing with a piece of shit, but you want that $500 million so you can work on
But
AIDS
is it
research.
taking that dirty money is the crime?
Well, everyone, I don't know why he was allowed to keep the money, knowing that it was from a Ponzi scheme.
exactly.
Yeah, I have no
Knowing
idea
that
why he was
it's
allowed to keep
result
his money.
from a crime.
I mean, no, this guy's an absolute piece of shit. But my suggestion is that nearly every man who hung out with him knew he was a piece of shit. It's the women who hang out with him who thought he was a great guy. And some of them think he's a piece of shit. But some of them think he's a piece of shit and think he's a great guy at the same time. Like, he has all these women who just love him and stuff. And it's like, I don't think it will spread to further things. I think there's way worse shit that could have happened. Like, I mean, like, I'm sure there's more scandals and much better ways you could have caught people. I mean, look, I know you're not meant to downplay these things, but they're calling it like a pedophile ring, and they're saying all these super young people, but they're talking about fucking 17-year-olds. And I think in our state that might be legal, or at least one in our country it's got to be legal. You go to Germany where it's 16, and again, I'm just saying, fuck, we're talking borderline shit here. And they said even in the doco, look, the prosecutor who was trying to stir him asked him a question. This was not, he asked him about, do you remember, like, the 3 12-year-olds that were sent to your house for you to abuse on your birthday? They were sent from France. Now, you can ask anyone dodgy questions in these things. That's what you do. You discredit people. He's obviously not going to answer anything still. But there's no one has come forward saying, we were those 12-year-olds. No one's come forward saying, I'm that 13-year-old. It seems to be a whole lot of people who are like 17 and upwards. That's the weirdest shit. A lot of these people are full-blown adults. Like, but they're saying they're victims, and they didn't meet him till they're in their early 20s and stuff. Like, but I get very confused over who's victims, who's being attacked, who's not. Like, it used to be more simple. Like, if you have a right to leave and you choose not to leave, and then you go on trips around the world with someone, are you a victim? Like, I don't know. It just feels like, I don't know, maybe I'm a bit jaded, because like a lot of these people, I was also a young person who was out and about in the world.
Yeah,
And
it's
met
crazy
a lot
that
of dodgy
they had
people.
the women who Epstein abused, and then they would go out and get other women as well. That's the craziest
That's
part
absolutely
of it.
insane. And to do it to their sisters and stuff. Like, I could never do this to my brother, to a friend, or anyone else. Like, it's pretty horrific.
Yeah.
But the problem is, the worst thing seems to be what the victims did to other victims, their friends and families. Like, shit's crazy. And if anyone tries to justify it by going, well, you don't understand what it's like when something's done to you, well, then all Epstein needs to do is say that this was done to him as a child, and then it's 100% justified what he has now done. And that's ridiculous. Like, you can't have these. And the Ghislaine was also doing the same shit. I mean, she was fucking a lot of these women and stuff as well. So it's like, they're all pretty bad. I don't know. For me, it's always a touchy subject, because I think shit, I would have been like 16 at the time, and I lived in government housing, and we kept getting bread dropped off at our door every day. It was weird, but it was like, okay, so we just eat the bread. Like, there was like a sack full of fucking weird breads. Then one day I hear scurrying at the door, open the door, and I finally see the guy who's been dropping the sacks of bread. Turns out he's the guy in the next complex, and he's a little bit shorter than me, and I'm pretty short, and he's old, or he seemed old at the time. Like, I was young, so he might have been in his 40s, but he seemed old. And he goes, oh, no, I didn't want to bother you. I've just been leaving you this. Now, we ran illegal businesses from my house, which he probably knew, and this is how you find victims. This is what they say. They think you can do this just to kids. Even though I was a kid, you can do this to adults as well. So he knew that we were a little bit dodgy, and I said, hey, you want to come in? You want to have a smoke? He goes, no, but you can come over, like, it's fine, have a smoke of mine or whatever, like, won't come in. So I go into his house, and he's like, okay, sit down. Now, he fucked up, and he probably never fucked up again in life after this. He fucked up because he let me sit down, and he was like, do you want a drink? And I was like, nah, I'm fine.
Wait, are you in his house?
I'm in his house, yeah. But this is normal. People go into people's houses all the time, you know? So I've gone to his house, because he's in the complex next to mine, but I've come over to his, because, well, that's how you make friends, you know? I'm talking to the neighbour. He's been leaving bread for us for ages. You think it's going to be okay.
Sounds dodge.
Yeah, but you go to people's houses. I mean, people meet people in nightclubs who say, hey, you want to come back? We'll do fucking cocaine or whatever. People go to people's houses.
Yeah.
So the shit's not...
That's also dodge.
Yeah, it is. But that's exactly it. So these women were just in a situation that normal human beings are in all the fucking time. And there was no even real threat to them. They were given money and given a choice. And people saying yes, but they're underage.
Yeah, but that's also dodge.
It is dodge. It is dodge, so I'm agreeing. But why I find I'm a little bit harsher on people is I go, so he gets me to sit down, and then he proceeds to move to the door. Now, his mistake was this motherfucker should have drugged me first. Like, he totally should have. He should have not gone through with his plan unless he managed to get the fucking, get me to drink whatever the fuck he wants me to drink. So that's real rape, when you're, like, drugged and you get fucked. So he's gone for plan B, thinking that I'm not actually that big, and because of some of the harder drugs I do, I've got a really fucking small frame, and I'm young. And I gotta say, it was pretty fucking terrifying. He starts putting the bolts onto the door, like you just hear this slow bolt. The dude grows about half a fucking foot, because all people do is curve their spine a little bit down. He was quite a fucking large motherfucker. And then he said things to me that I will never repeat to any other human, because I'm good at pretty much traumatizing people. And what this guy said was absolutely fucked up. Now, I knew at that moment that I was either going to get raped, or I was going to get raped and die, or maybe he didn't think I was pretty and I was just going to die.
Jesus.
I don't even know which would have been best case scenario. But either he hadn't practiced this before, or he just hadn't got someone like me. And I'm a very friendly person. I've always been social, and no matter what happens to me, I don't let that get me down, and I keep being nice to people. So, but what he wasn't ready for was I can transform just as quick as that motherfucker could transform. And I'm a lot bigger now, and I'm able to get to the kitchen quicker than he can to get straight to the knife block. So I've moved over, and I'm ready to fucking knife this piece of shit. And all of a sudden, he's retreated to the front door, where he's just unbolting it. He has dropped his half a foot size, changed his voice back to normal, and he's like, no problem, just leave. Now, I'm in a situation where I can't do anything. I have to just leave. I can't stop him in any way. I can't assault him. He's so much older that all he's going to do is call the cops. The cops are going to come to my house. They're going to arrest us. Then they're going to charge me with some bizarre crime, because it's easier to charge me than it is to charge him. Say, well, you were in his house and then you had a knife. We're charging you. So you can't report him. You can't physically stop them other than kill them. And society then says you're the monster. So it's like, I've never felt as bad in my life as having to leave this piece of shit. I then told people. This was the weirdest thing. I told the flatmate. I told other people. And everyone was like, no. And they kept an eye out and they saw the guy. And then everyone was like, no. And that was the end of it. I have no doubt that this guy went on to fucking rape and kill other people, and there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. If I'd have called and made any report to the police, I would have had to provide some sort of detail. They would have then just come and harass me, because that's how our great country works. It would have been easier to go after me. Like, at least with this Epstein shit, the police immediately seem to be like, oh no, we're going to deal with this. We're going to try to build a case. We're going to do this. So shit didn't happen to me. But if I'd have got fucking raped then, bashed and raped, even going, that's a victim. If I'd have gone into his house and he'd have said, here's $200, you want to jerk me off? And I'm allowed to go, no thank you, I'm going to walk out. Then I'm not a victim if I take the money. It's kind of how I feel.
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah, that was my rant.
Jesus Christ, mate. Fuck. Alright, we're running out of time for this week, so thank you for joining us, and catch us next week for part 2.
Okay, Chief Blitzfreak out.